retired New York City firefighter and Vietnam vet, Billy O'Connor.
Which one's Billy?
The pretty one, the attractive one.
My brother.
My brother Frankie. How are you, pal?
How are you, pal?
You're looking pretty good down there, pal. You're looking pretty good down there in Pasadena.
I'm looking as good as I can with what I got.
I love those. I love that when a woman says to you, you know, you're a good-looking guy for your age.
Yeah, for your
They always give you the qualification.
Yeah, and those gals are getting older every day. Also.
Oh yeah, I had a gal tell me one time. She goes, you know, you're an interesting guy. You're a good-looking guy. If you were 20 years younger, I'd go out with you. I said, sweetheart, if you were 20 years younger, if I was 20 years younger, I'd be talking to your girlfriend.
Pretty funny. So, Billy, what did you think of that fiasco last? I think it's last Wednesday now that took place in D.C.
The storming of the Capitol, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was just shocked as everybody else, of course. You know, and then the what do they call it? Not just the media, but the corrections. You know, they start pumping out. It was Antifa. It was like it wasn't really us. We didn't do it. And I don't know if they're going to prosecute the guys that instigated it. Giuliani has lost his mind completely. I mean, Giuliani. I don't know what they're going to do with Trump, but when you're out in the street, and this is directly from the speech, he said, you know, I might even lead you. He said, we got to stay strong. We got to stay brave. We got to march to the Capitol. And then he got into an SUV, armored SUV, drove back to the White House, hunkered down, surrounded by Secret Service. It's like the old Jonathan Winters joke. Jonathan Winters used to do a bit when he was in the Marine Corps. And he said, why are you flashing me a four?
It's the fourth time you told this story, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. When you said four, I thought you were playing golf.
Hey, Derek.
Four?
Wait a second.
Never mind that.
Where's Derek? Is Derek today?
He broke his leg. He broke his leg. His wife had to shoot him.
Hilarious. Hello, fellas. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good morning, Derek. How are you, pal?
Go ahead and tell the story for the fourth time.
Man, I want to tell it. Man, I wish I could be with you. Yes, but it reminded me of the men I wish I could be with you. I mean, I'm going to lead you. Then he gets into an armored car, drives back to the White House, hunkers down in the basement, surrounds himself with Secret Service. I mean, you know, what is it, the old line? Either lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. Yep. I think he's got to get out of the way. I think it's time. Get out of the way.
I think so, too. Speaking of the takeover, I believe Derek has a photo. Getting ready a photo. He will get ready a photo. Getting ready a photo. He will get ready a photo.
All right.
It's a buddy of yours, eh?
No, it's not really a buddy, but as soon as I got to tell you, I was talking to Frank on the phone a couple of days ago, and I said, "You see that guy with the horns? I know that guy." And what does Frank say? Of course you do. Of course. He doesn't even surprise me a little bit. He said, "Of course you know."
Cross my mind.
Really,
who's the craziest maniac there? That guy knows Billy.
Well, he don't know me, but I know him. I saw him. I don't know him, but he used to hang around Phoenix. He's from Phoenix. I think the guy's name is, I can't think of it off the top of my head, Jack Algott or something like that. But the guy is a conspiracy nut. Like, I saw him on a soapbox talking to about 5 people. I was on my way into the Tempe Improv to do comedy. And he was preaching about how the Democrats are raping children and, you know, they're running stuff out of pizza stores and they're kidnapping and they're all involved in a big, he's a big QAnon guy, you know, like they're all involved with Hollywood. Because I know you're into, you know, kidnapping little children. You're in Hollywood. All you guys, we got to be careful, you guys. And I saw the guy and I started laughing. And you know my laugh, Frank. I started laughing. Now the guy started getting pissed off and pointing at me and kept calling me sheep, you're sheep, you're sheep. And the more he did that, the louder I got. And then I started exaggerating it just to piss him off. But yeah, so I've seen him around. I don't know him, but it would crack me up when I told you I knew him. We only play bridge on Wednesdays. You don't think he looks like a bridge player to you?
Yeah, he looks like a bridge player, right? You know, I was texting with a friend of mine in Chicago, a gal, and she said, "This guy was be perfect. Why can't he get a woman? His horns are great. He's got a hairy chest. You know, terrific, terrific."
Oh yeah, he's got some great horns. He's got great. But you know, now they're talking about pardoning himself. You know, he's going to see if he's going to test those waters and see if he can pardon himself before he comes out of water. Of course, that encompasses Giuliani, his kids, anybody who was involved in the insightful riot, and goes beyond that. Anything that he did in federal office, he wants to pardon himself ahead of time, which brings the question immediately: why would you have to pardon yourself if you didn't do anything wrong?
Yep.
That's the number one question.
Yeah.
And that could be the straw that breaks the drometary's back.
Yep.
Because Pope Leo, I mean, I don't want to go too far back into history, but it was bad enough that he was using the Vatican as a whorehouse. It was bad enough that he had bankrupted the Vatican. He was trying to he was one of the Borgia Pope, and Leo was incredible. I mean, he had the balls of Trump. He didn't care about image or anything else. Matter of fact, he was married. He was having an affair with his own daughter, and his two sons. One murdered the other because they were both in love with Lucretia Borgia, who was their sister. So, I mean, that's how screwed up that family was. But when he started pardoning in advance, he not only sold indulgences, he said, you know what? Let's start selling indulgences for what you're going to do. So, Frank, you want to kill your wife. You come to Pope Leo, and you said, do me a favor, pardon me up front. Here's X amount of dollars. So that's when Martin Luther said, okay, look, enough is enough. This is bullshit. And he was a devout Catholic, Luther. Then he nailed the 95 Theses to the church wall, and that started the Reformation. Of course, the Reformation led to the Renaissance, and the Renaissance led to the American and French Revolution. People started questioning the stuff that was going on. So I think this might be the straw that breaks the back if he starts pardoning himself in advance.
God damn, Billy, are you a teacher?
How do you know this shit?
I read a lot of history. I like history. And let me tell you something. When you read about Pope Leo, it's better than reading porn. I mean, when you read about Pope Leo, it's like, come on, this can't be true. This guy, are you kidding? This is amazing. I mean, it's better than reading porn. It's more interesting, too. Just stuff I do. I don't know. I just like history. But I think this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. We'll see. You know, but Ted Cruz, man, he should know better. When he comes, he's got a Yale University law university.
I think all people that went to Ivy League schools should be banned for running for president.
Yes.
You know what, Derek?
Where did Derek go?
You got a point.
Where did Derek go again?
I'm here.
Where did you go?
His wife is breaking his other leg.
What the hell? So she can shoot him again.
Shoot him again. Shoot that bastard again.
He's still moving.
Yeah, but that's right. You know, I think the Ivy League schools should be banned because they've made a mess of it. Let's face it, they've done nothing for us. But then again, I forget, it might be a Lenny Bruce quote. Anybody who says they want to run for president, anybody who thinks they're qualified to be president, that should automatically eliminate.
Yeah.
Because that means you're an egomaniac.
I wonder what they're teaching in those Ivy League law schools. Constitutional? I mean, the Republicans got to be going through different classes than the Democrats. And vice versa. What are they going to?
I don't know, man. But you know what? It's all theater, and it's sad, but it's all theater now. It's just evolved into theater. All they want is the platform. This other guy, what's his name? What was the other guy? Hawkins? What was his name?
Yeah, Josh Hawley.
Josh Hawley. This guy hasn't even sat a day in the Senate yet. Not one day. And he's out starting an insurrection. I mean,
served. I believe he replaced. He's been there for 2 years.
Oh, he has. I thought he just got in. I didn't know that he just replaced him. Well,
No.
indeed the case. I mean, he's still a junior senator.
Current events you're not so good at. Ancient history you're great.
Well, I'm good at current events if I can remember them.
Yeah. Speaking of drama and theater, our guest today will be Don Scardino, a terrific director, producer, and actor who originated the role of Jesus Christ on Broadway in Godspell 50 years ago this May. So Don will be coming up in a little while. So
yeah, and he's a triple threat. This guy. I mean, he's banged around from acting to directing to producing. And I got a question for you. And I think I probably know the answer, but I want to ask you anyway. You were a producer, and of course your milieu was television.
yeah.
But when you did movies,
Yeah.
was it a lot tougher? Did you find it was a major dramatic difference, or was it the same thing?
No, it was pretty much the same skills. The big difference was it didn't have the sense of urgency that television had. I like doing television. I like doing episodic television because we'd shoot a show on Friday night and start a new one on Monday. When I was doing movies, sometimes it would take a year between the time we shot it and the time it got on the air. So it was not the urgency and the immediacy that I had with television.
You didn't get the immediate gratification of seeing the thing done.
Yeah,
and then you decided to start writing books.
Yeah,
because you wanted the immediate gratification.
Work for free and work with you for free.
Anybody who works for me works for free, Frank.
And split my zero proceeds in half.
I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to have Derek loan me $500. I'm going to buy $500 worth of Bitcoin. I'm going to bring that whole process to its knees. Bitcoin will be worth a penny by the time if I invest a nickel in it.
Bitcoin is $91,000 now.
It's crazy. But you just know the bubble's going to break, or I keep thinking it is.
31.
It's doubled in the last month, I think, something like that. It's doubled in a month. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know anything about economics, obviously.
I'm sorry?
40,700.
Wow. So I had 31,000 earlier in the week. Now it's up to 40,000. I'm glad I don't own any because I don't want to own anyone who's going to be worth 1,500 either.
You let me jump in and I'll sink that thing like there's no tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Matter of fact, let me get the stock market. I'll bring this whole country to their knees. Just all I got to do is buy $10 worth of stock and I'll sink the whole market. Guaranteed.
We're doing that on our own. Plus, Bitcoin's probably going to go to 100,000 or more.
Yeah. Why do you say that, Derek? You know anything about economics, or you just left field in it?
No, I can't say that I know anything about economics. I won't claim to be a professional, but if you look at how many people are involved in Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital currency, the only way that Bitcoin is going to lose its value is if it is banned by the U.S. government. And so that's
really
yes, that's going to be the only way.
And is it because of this blockchain? Do either one of you guys know anything about this blockchain technology? I've tried to read a little something about it, but it doesn't resonate.
Yeah. Blockchain is like a ledger. It's like a computer ledger. And so everything that happens in the blockchain is recorded. So if you think about a series of code and problems being solved, and there's a ledger of all of those things in the code, and it's forever sort of locked in the blockchain.
So it's more binding than a contract and would be more likely to be used internationally?
And it's decentralized, so it can never be lost.
And what about these other things that go along with Bitcoin? They got about, there's at least 200 or 300 different fiat currencies or whatever you want to call them.
You know what I'm looking forward to? Trump coin.
Trump coin, all right.
Hey.
Well, listen, if Caesar can put his head on a coin, there's no reason why Trump can't.
Along with, what's the Trump version of Twitter? Trump-itter? He's going to go.
They say they banned him for life. You think that'll stick?
Yes, I believe it'll stick. But he's now saying he's going to develop his own social media outlet.
Listen,
Yeah,
Why?
why not? What do you got? Lay it in there.
I just come on, guys. This is America. This is America. We cannot be banning people from any platforms. None. Nobody should be banned ever.
Wait. They're private owned companies.
I don't. Well, they're more like public utilities now, based on the power and the distribution. So
Yeah, but we've given them that power. You know, somebody said United Airlines. If they say you can't fly, you can't fly.
Yeah, well, you know, there's the other thing. The old adage has always been, we're a country with free speech, but you're not free to jump into a crowded church and yell fire, you know, because you're endangering other people. When you're inciting, you know, a mass riot or to attack the Capitol and organizing it, I think that constitutes. For example, I'm allowed to get drunk. I can drink a bottle of scotch right now, be blasted. I'm allowed to drive, but if I drive while I'm drunk, I'm endangering you and you, Derek, and your children. So I mean, there's got to be some
well, can
cap on it, you know.
yeah, can we go over what he actually said to incite the riot?
No.
Well, first of all, he said, "Be there January such. We're going to have a hell of a time."
That's
He organized it.
Well, let's. Yes,
Let
go
me-
ahead, Frank. Go ahead.
stop. That's old news. That happened a week ago.
Yeah.
I don't want to rehash something that happened a week ago Wednesday.
Yeah, but Frank, it happened a week ago. I probably forgot it already. Another thing is, we're living in the United States of amnesia. Anyway, I mean, you can do anything, and then 2 days later, Americans will be like, "He did what? What happened?" You know, it's that's who we are.
Plus, it happened a week ago, and the audience hasn't heard what our thoughts are on it. So it's not like we should at least share some opinions, which we have. So it was a week ago. It only is a historical moment, so we don't need to talk about it.
I wonder.
So fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you, audience. And I don't know why you'd be interested in our opinion about it anyway.
Why don't you just say fuck you, Frank?
Oh. So
What else you got to talk about?
I don't know.
The inauguration's a week away.
The inauguration's a week away. Is that gonna end anything? Is it gonna change anything? He's inheriting some man. I mean, think about this: 4,000 people a day are dying, and now it's not even on the front page anymore.
Yeah, I believe one day last week, like almost 700 people died in California alone.
California, Frank, I swear to God. I mean, what happens if you get a heart attack? It's bye-bye, Frankie.
Yep.
If you get in a car accident, it's bye. I talk to nurses, and my
Hey,
wife said,
By the way, why I got to get a heart attack? Why can't? What happens if
well, you got.
Derek get a heart attack? Why's it got to be me who has?
I tell you
Because
why.
I'm
Because
strong,
you got
Frank.
that.
My heart is strong.
That's right.
Yeah.
Derek has got a strong heart, and you got that deal you made with God that you're getting 20 more years no matter what.
Yep.
So I can fool with you because you got that. You signed that contract. Was that on blockchain or whatever? The deal you did with God.
No. It's not a blockchain. We sealed the deal in Bitcoin.
So where were we going now? Oh yeah, we're talking about.
But you know, it's a good thing because at least he won the 2 Senate races in Georgia. For the
Yeah, and that goes right to Stacey Abrams. I mean, she really did some job down there organizing and getting people out to vote. You know, but you know what, man? Here's another thing.
But
And this is right out of Trump's mouth.
you know
Right
what?
out of Trump's mouth. He said, if we make it easier for people to vote, we will never have another Republican president again. That's a direct quote from Trump.
Yeah. Well, you know, we will have another Republican president for sure because people get pissed off with the Democrats. When the people
Without a doubt.
4 years from now, 8 years from now, they'll be pissed off at the Democrats and they'll elect another Republican.
It brings to mind Mark Twain's famous quote. He says, "I belong to no organized party. I'm a Democrat."
Yep.
They'll find a way to screw it up. They will, without a doubt. But
That's-
what's going to happen now? I mean, back to the COVID thing. LA is a disaster. I'm talking to my wife's an RN, so obviously she knows a lot of nurses, and they're telling her that these people are denying that COVID exists as they're dying from it.
Yeah, I know. You know, it's incredible to me. I mean, the 370,000 people, over 370,000 people have passed away in America, and you know, even if it's inflated by 100,000, okay,
Yeah.
that's still 270,000 people. And even if that's inflated by 50,000, it's still 250,000 people. It's too many people. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's go to our guest.
All right. And on that high note, let's bring in a little humor. Now listen, fellas, we all lost a couple of people in Dunkirk, but now it's time to have a couple of laughs. Bring in Don Scardino. Let's see if he can follow that act.
Yeah.
Let's have a couple of laughs, Donny boy. How many people are dying today? What kind of insurrection's going on? Oh my God Almighty, what's going on in this country? God help us.
Okay, Frank, we got Don in.
We should have it. Here we go.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading. Now let me. I'm sorry. I was reading a book.
All right. God bless that man.
Hang on. Let me get volume here. Do you say something wonderful?
Something wonderful.
There you go. Perfect. How you going? You must be Billy.
I am Don. Nice to meet you, pal. A pleasure.
Nice to meet you too. Hey, Frank.
It's Derek with the hat. Nice to see you, Don. Bless you, my friend. Bless you.
It's a great
Put
book.
it down, huh? You couldn't put it down, Don.
I can't put it down. It's very heavy. No, it's I love it. I'm just having the best time with this book.
Research on you, real pleasure. You're quite an
Uh-oh.
accomplished guy, pal.
That FBI report didn't come up, did it?
Hey, we should have gotten you a mug.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Actually, I was first put on to do research with you. I was in a men's room and said, "What a good time!" Call Don Scardino.
Where all my resumes hang.
Yes, but it was you were in the men's room after Don was in cruising with.
Exactly.
Yes. I was on a lot of men's room walls after cruising.
What was that, Don? You were an actor in cruising, right?
I hope so. I hope I wasn't a tech advisor. Yeah, I was. Or the guy handing out the poppers, but we won't talk about that because they weren't supposed to do that. But
The amyl nitrate? Is that what we're talking about? Amyl nitrate?
hello. Oh, it was the 70s, but it was. I'll tell you the truth. It was one of those strange things where I had worked with Al years before when we were both scuffling, and he was sleeping on Jill Clayburgh's floor.
We're talking about Al Pacino for our audience here. Al Pacino.
Al Pacino. And so we had worked together in a play called The Peace Creeps, which was a little play off Broadway, which was fun to do. And it was Al and James Earl Jones. And James Earl Jones was the only guy who had any credits at that point. And Al was, scuffling. I was scuffling. But anyway, so I knew him. And then, boom, he takes off. And then I get this call from Bill Friedkin's office saying, come in and read for this movie called Cruising with Al Pacino. And you were recommended by Mr. Pacino. I go, oh, okay. I go down, meet Friedkin. Friedkin, who I've heard horror stories about, is just a classic gent. He was just fabulous. And he had seen me in some play off Broadway. And he said, we were talking about the character in the movie. He said, you want the part? I said, what? I come to read. He said, no, do you want the part? It's yours. Never happened to me before. So I get the part, and then of course I'm reading the script and I'm going, oh my God. Oh yeah. Fortunately for me, I was the love interest for Al Pacino, and there was no kissing. We just I just had scenes where he's undercover as a cop in the West Village trying to uncover these this gay serial killer. So he goes undercover, and so I'm a guy who lives in his building who's gay and who starts giving him information and starts taking him around, and so we become friends. And I have a couple nice scenes with him, and then spoiler alert, near the end of the picture, you find me dead, and you don't know whether he's crossed over the line. It's so cute. He's crossed over the line or not, and that was the premise of the movie. So I didn't have to, get get too weird in any. It wasn't any bar scenes or any of those things. You know, it was.
That was the movie that really portrayed gays in cinema, isn't it?
It was. That's right. And followed closely by Boys in the Band, I think. But it was the first major studio release. It was Warner Brothers release. Um, um, Jerry, I can't think of his name. Redheaded Jerry, famous producer. Anyway, um, it was the first major studio release about the gay world, and we shot among tons of protests. We could barely get a location shot in because they would surround the set and yell and throw bottles and stuff. Their beef was, and it was a legitimate beef, was that
Wow.
we finally get their beef was we finally get into a legitimate movie, a Warner Brothers movie with a major star, and it's only about this underworld, you know, this dark leather bar scene and this murders in this world. And I would say to the protesters constantly, I would say, but my character is like the normal one. He's the regular guy, and that's sort of supposed to, you know, sort of give you a balance there in terms of the characters. But we Friedkin started to shoot the movie very fast because of all the protests, and I think they probably felt that there was some mileage to be had by getting the movie out quickly and almost, you know, sort of capitalizing on the fact that it had been in Time Magazine and all these places about the fact that the gay community was up in arms about the movie. Um, and as a result, the movie was, in my humble opinion, the movie was rushed to completion, and there were certain script problems that were left unattended to. So the movie is not as strong as it could have been, or as affecting as it could have been. But it had a great cast. I mean, it was Al Pacino and Paul Sorvino and Don Scardino. It sounds like an Italian law firm.
You know,
How long have you been acting when they called you in for that?
About 20 minutes. No, I'm kidding.
I didn't mean to get off on a big diatribe on not diatribe on cruising. A Few Good Men, but Don's your career is way more than uh, 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 cruising. Your career as an actor, your career as a producer, your career as a director. I believe 50 years ago this May, you debuted on Broadway as the lead in Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and Godspell, yes, yes, yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little about that?
Well, that was an amazing experience. You know, Godspell had opened. I was just finishing a movie in Canada when a friend of mine who was Canadian, who was in the Canadian company Godspell, said, "I'm leaving to do a movie. You have to replace me." That was Victor Garber. So I got into Godspell in Toronto, playing Jesus, and then I was in it for a few weeks when they said, "We need a Jesus in New York." I said, "Don't we all?" But but so I was brought down to play in New York at the Off Broadway company, and then when they opened the Broadway company, when it moved to Broadway 50 years ago, you're right. I opened the Broadway company playing Jesus in Godspell. And Godspell, for those who don't remember, is the Gospel according to St. Matthew done as a clown show. It's almost as if Second City took on the story of Jesus. Oh, there you go. Oh, I see you've been in the FBI file. Yeah, that
Here,
yeah, a lot of hair, a lot of hair. It's Jesus as a clown and his followers as clowns. And it's very, very affecting. And it's the one that Day by Day, the song Day by Day came from. Music was by Stephen Schwartz, you know, who went on to write Wicked and all these wonderful shows. Um, and it was basically a bunch of kids at Carnegie Mellon who put it together and as a master's thesis. And
Well, this is
Gilbert-
around the same time as Hair and Jesus Christ Superstar, right? This was all
Totally. Yeah, yeah. It was
all
the
going
thing.
on Broadway.
That's right. Yeah. Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, all these sort of rock and roll Bible stories, you know. But Jesus, the Godspell, one of the reasons it's been so effective and continues is that Broadway revival not so long ago. Is that because it disarms you with this kind of, you know, funny telling of parables through clown show. And then when the second act comes and it's the passion play, you're caught. You're really caught, and it's very emotional. And we used to have people come up on the stage during the intermission to share wine with us. It was sort of a symbolic communion, and it was fun because we'd be dripping wet, and the audience would come up in intermission. And I once had a group of nuns came up, and they took their wine. They were very kind of, and then one grabbed me and kissed me hard on the lips. And I said, "What's that for?" And she said, "I've been married to you for 13 years, and I had no idea you were so cute." True story. That is a
Now,
very true
would you
story.
consider that your break in acting? Was that your breakthrough, or
Actually, no. I've been acting before that. I've been acting since I was about 12 or 13 years old, and my parents were jazz musicians, so they had friends in the theater world. My dad was very close with Sam Levine and some other people like that, and so I got started early, and I was on a soap opera by the time I was 15 every day, The Guiding Light every day for a couple of years.
were you
Um,
singing as well? You
I was
obviously you
I was
sang in
always
Godspell. So
yeah, I was always a singer because my parents were musicians, so I was raised with Ella and Frank and Tony Bennett and all the rest of them, Nat Cole, and our house was filled with music, and there were jam sessions all the time. So I grew up singing and playing, um, and did musicals, did a bunch of musicals. But as I always made films backstage, and I was always sitting in the audience watching rehearsal, and I'd say, to an actor, hey, you could get a laugh if you just wait a minute there. And so I really, after 20 years of acting, I went, wait a minute. And I was doing a play called How I Got That Story, which was a hit off Broadway about Vietnam. And two actors, Bob Gunton and myself. Anyway, it was a hit. And right after we closed, the playwright, asked me to direct a production of it. And I hadn't really thought about it. I've been acting right along, and I directed a production of it out of town, and it was a big success. I came back to New York, and they said, "Hey, we heard you were directing. You want to direct this? And you want to direct that?" And the next
wow.
thing you knew, I was off and running directing theater. And before too long, I directed A Few Good Men on Broadway, which was um, Aaron Sorkin's first really big play.
Well, I've got that note down because did you direct Stephen Lang in that?
I did indeed. I know we're mutual pals.
Yes, we are. And Stephen came in the studio, was a guest of Billy and mine several weeks ago or pre-pandemic, and he's a great guy.
Oh, the best. He's the best.
So Stephen played Jessup on Broadway, right?
He played the Jack Nicholson part. That's right.
Yeah, he was very bitter that he didn't get it instead of Jack. He said that.
I mean, Aaron Sorkin said to me, he said, "I'm going to get you the movie. You're going to direct the movie." I said, "Rob Reiner bought the movie. Do you think he bought it for me to direct? I don't think so."
Yeah. And by the way, Billy's kidding about Stephen being bitter.
Oh,
no,
Stephen's
yeah,
not-
yeah. He said
no,
he just
no,
started laughing. He made a joke about it. Yeah,
No, he's not bitter at all. I am not. I mean, as I said to Aaron at the time, that's very kind of you, but it's another league. We're not in that league yet, and at that point, Jack Nicholson's going to sell a whole lot more tickets than Stephen Lang, and Rob Reiner than me. But it was interesting because they all came to see the play, and so there a lot of what was on stage got taken into the movie, and Stephen Lang was brilliant. Stephen Lang should have been nominated and won a Tony Award for that part. And I'm not sure why he wasn't. Why it wasn't. I think some people misunderstood the play and thought it was jingoistic. At least that's what the fellow in the Times said, even though he liked it. And so I think they thought it was rah rah when actually it was
the opposite.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite. You've got this crazed colonel who is sort of like Trumpian. I mean, he's the king of his own little fiefdom there in Cuba, and he's taking power into his own hands and the law into his own hands. And but Stephen, what was great about Stephen is, and Stephen, when we talked about the character, we both agreed that this is a character who could be on the National Security Council once he left his post in Cuba. He could have moved up politically, been on the NSC, and then even run for president. So you couldn't play him like a rabid dog. You couldn't play him like I'm so crazy. and which I think was a pitfall that perhaps they hit in the movie a little bit too early, too soon, with Jack being a little too snarly. But so that when Steven started to turn and start to go crazy on the stand and all that, it was chilling because you realize here's a guy that could have been the next president, but he's now you realize he's off his rocker.
For anybody, for anybody who hasn't seen it, he was sort of like an Oliver North character. Is that correct?
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right.
Oh, Captain Queeg. I think of Queeg
Yeah.
and Bogart, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's a combination of North and Queeg, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
But
And-
anybody who thinks that was a jingoistic play is the kind of person that would think Born in the USA is about patriotism, you know?
right, right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and some do.
and some do.
They
Exactly.
haven't
right.
listened
Some
closely
do.
enough.
So how long did that run on Broadway, Don?
It ran on Broadway a little over a year, and then about 15 months maybe, and then we did a successful national tour with Michael O'Keefe and Ron Perlman.
Oh, great.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so your longest run on Broadway was then probably what'd you do, 1,000 episodes of Godspell? Or
I
1,000?
did.
1,000?
Yeah, performances. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All told, 1,000 performances. It's someone said to me, why would you give that up? You know, being crucified 8 times a week is no picnic. But,
You know, Don, you're a testament to something that Frank refers to in If These Lips Could Talk. You know, he talks about being flexible. If you're going to be in show business and you're an actor, learn how to do something else.
Yeah.
And obviously, you've danced across the aisle from director to producer to actor. What gives you the most joy?
well, that's tough. I guess you know, as I get older, producing is more interesting because you are coordinating all the elements, and you don't have to necessarily get up at 5 in the morning and open the set. Depends on what kind of producer. Frank is there right from the get go
With the first truck.
until the last dog is home. Frank does not give up. This is what makes him and why he's had the great career he's had.
I want to
But-
try. I want to try to make sure the executive producer doesn't know what I'm doing.
That's right. That's right.
Where's Pace? Where's Pace? Anybody seen Pace?
He's always on the set. He's always on the set. He's got to be something.
That's what you tell the
So
executive
let me-
producer, sleep in.
Let me
sleep
ask
in,
you
I
as a
got it."
layman. I got to ask you as a layman because I have no concept of, other than my affiliation with Frank. Who has the most control over a movie, or a play, a producer or a director?
Oh, now you ask 3 different questions.
Yeah, right.
Yes, and I want 3 different answers.
Who has it's the question? Who has the most control over a play? Don will answer that. If the answer is who has the most control over a movie, Don will answer that. If it has who has the most control over episodic, there's a different answer for that. So Don,
Is there? See,
There we go. Absolutely, there is.
I wouldn't know that.
and
So-
Billy, keep quiet. Let Don.
So it's a good
You're not
three questions.
interviewing me.
It's a good thing I have 3 heads. So in a play, by contract, the author has control. In other words, the author can fire the director. The Dramatists Guild guarantees the author that. However, the person who has the most control in terms of putting it on, getting it on, it's a director's medium, and the director is in charge of all those elements. You sit.
The writer can fire the director.
That's right, but the writer has the final say. So in that sense, playwright is the final arbiter. If he doesn't like what I'm doing, and we can't agree, he can, send me walking. In film, the studio has the power ultimately because they're the ones. Unless you are, there are very few now. I mean, whether it's Spielberg or who has final cut these days. I mean,
Stacey.
yeah, right. And I worked with Sidney Lumet. He pretty much had final cut over everything.
Sidney had final cut over everything.
Yeah, he wouldn't give it up otherwise. But so unless you've got that kind of clout, and you say, okay, then the director is the last guy in and out. But if you don't have that, it's the studio ultimately. It's not really the producers, and it's not really the director. It's not really the writers. The writers are working at catering by this point. In the feature film the studio finally has the final cut. I did a movie for a studio that had some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen Jim Carrey do, and they and I cut it in. They insisted on cutting it out because they thought it might be offensive to some people.
And that was the Incredible Burt Wonderstone, correct?
That's right, The Incredible Burt Wonderstone with Steve Carell and Jim Carrey. And then in episodic television, again, the writers are finally the last word in terms of how you're putting things down, and also in terms of like the cutting. However, they have to answer to the network. So the studio has their say. The executive producers and who are writers nowadays, they have their say, and they both have very strong votes. However, the network will finally say in or out. Let's say there's a dispute about something or a script point or whatever it is. The director, depending on the show and how they feel about their director's a gun for hire who comes in and has to make the day, get this coverage, and turn over a cut really quickly because the turnaround time is so fast, and get out. So I would say it's the place where, in a way, the director has the least control. He has control over the day-to-day work of the scenes and putting the scenes together and into the camera. But finally, you deliver that piece of film, and thank you very much. I worked with some big television producers who literally would get the director cut in, and they go, "Here's the director cut," and they go, "Throw it out."
Yeah.
And then they say, "Bring in the editor." Yeah. Bring in the editor cut, and we'll do our own cut. And if they've been paying attention to dailies, they can sit down and do their own cut. And so so that's an interesting that's an interesting way to look at it. I never really thought about laying those three disciplines side by side, but
Well, yeah, for me, it's astonishing. I mean, so basically, with television, it's the suits, and with on Broadway, it's the writer. The writer has the final say, which is I never knew that, but it's a damn thing. It's a damn good thing they gave Sorkin final say because he's a genius.
And with feature films, it's the director.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it can only be overruled by the studio, only because the studio is going to put it out. So finally,
and really in episodic television, the suits the network has got the most control in the first season. When you become a producer on 30 Rock, like Don was, and the director of many episodes, the network will really pretty much let you do what you want to do because they know you have a track record, they know you trust you, and they put their creative genius into making another show go down a tube after 13 episodes during the first season.
That's right. That's right. Turn their mighty powers to that. Yeah.
Don will tell you, Don directed Murphy Brown in 2018 brilliantly, and we never even heard from CBS or
no.
Warner Brothers. They let Diane do her thing, and it's really not. It's really the executive producer who runs the show in television, who is the lead writer, not the writers. Don says writers plural. It's really only the executive producer who is the key person. And if that person's got a singular voice, like Diane had, the show will be successful. If that person tries to take every note, that show will go down the tubes short.
Yeah. It was a great thing at 30 Rock, watching because Tina had a lot of respect, even though they hadn't done it, they hadn't worked in this medium before. They were coming out of SNL, but they also had, the proverbial 300-pound gorilla protecting them, which they had Lorne. So basically, Lorne Michaels, if there was a dispute early on in the first season about which way to go or how the writing was going, all really Tina and Robert had to do was turn to Robert Carlock and Tina Fey had to do, which was, turn to Lorne and ask him for assistance. And Lorne would say, "I'm the executive producer. I'm in charge." Once that first season was down and we had a bunch of statues and things, and people were, watching the show and getting great reviews and all the rest of it, then we didn't need that backstop anymore. We didn't need to bring in the big gun. They respected Tina they really, their notes were supportive and take it or leave it kind of thing. If it works for you, try it. If not, let it go. Which was the way it should be because that was a very kind of singular vision shared by Tina Fey and Robert Carlock, and they knew what they were doing.
How did you meet them?
It's funny. The first day of rehearsal, first day of shooting, I came in episode 5 on 30 Rock, and first day the first thing she said to me was, I staged the scene very quickly, and I sent everybody away to hair and makeup, and I said, we'll be ready in 10 minutes. And she said to me, I know what Scardino means in Italian. I said, what? She said, out by 6:30. And then and she took off. And then at the end of the day went very well. It was really fun. And my first day with them. And I was nervous because I was an SNL fan, and I knew Alec slightly, but Alec can be intimidating, all those things. Anyway, it went great. At the end of the day, Tina says to me, "You don't remember me, do you?" Uh-oh. Nah, don't tell me we dated and I've forgotten. She said, No. You wish. She said, No, I was on the props crew of A Few Good Men in your pre-Broadway tryout at the University of Virginia, where I was an undergrad.
Wow.
That was pretty wild.
Remember what I said about being nice to everybody, Billy?
Right.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
And
you never know.
You never know. You never know. And that was great. So I didn't know that I didn't remember her. She said, "Don't worry. I basically walked Tommy Hulse's dog. I had very little to do, but um, I was working for uh, I knew I was friendly with a fellow named Bernstein, and we used to call him Bernie Bernstein. He's a big director. He does a lot of pilots. He did the pilot for 30 Rock. Adam Bernstein, wonderful guy. And he had hired me to come on and do a couple of episodes in the first order of 30 Rock. And so I did. I did a bunch. We had only an order of 13. When they got the pickup for the back 9, they asked me to come in as a producer because Adam was going on to other stuff. So I luckily was in the right place at the right time. And then I became a producer as well as I directed 38 episodes and produced 5 years of it.
What did I say in the book? Right place at the right time. Be the right.
Yeah.
You have to be the right guy in the right place at the right time.
That's right. I was trying to get my directing career going and get people to think of me not as an actor, and I was doing summer stock up at the Sharon Playhouse in Sharon, Connecticut. Now you couldn't go more lo-fi than being in the Sharon Playhouse in Sharon, Connecticut, right? In the summertime, you're doing Hello Dolly on Tuesday, you're doing Camelot on Thursday. It's nuts. And so I'm directing Pump Boys and Dinettes, Best Stop, and one other thing all at once. It's all crazy, no money, and all of those things. The stage manager was this guy named David Lansky, lovely guy, and I nicknamed him No Problem. I said, "You're the best stage manager I've worked with." Because whenever I say, get me a 30-foot winch in here, and he'll go, "No problem," no matter what I say. So No Problem comes up to me and says, "I got this cousin. He's an actor. He wants to be an actor. He wants to be a playwright. He's tending bar in the Broadway theater, and he's written this play, and he's a big fan of yours from Godspell. He's seen it like 5 times, and now he knows you're directing. So would you read his play? I apologize. It's long, but get him off my back. You can just say you read it or whatever." I said, "Don't worry, give it to me." So I get this play from David called "Removing All Doubt" by Aaron Sorkin. So I read the play, and the dialogue is great. And the play doesn't really add up. It's a mystery. It doesn't really work. So I say, give me his number. So I call him up. I say, "Sorkin, Mr. Sorkin, this is Don Sorkin." "Oh, yeah." I said, "Let's do a reading. Let's put a reading together of your play so you can hear it. You've got some problems and you got to hear it first." So when I got back to town, we did the reading of the play. Okay. God bless. Good luck. Take some notes. Wish you a lot of luck with the play. And he was like skinny kid, 20 years old. So sharp. And you knew that, the guy was undeniably talented. A year and a half later, I get a call, "Mr. Scardino, Mrs. Aaron Sorkin, do you remember me?" "Of course, Aaron, how are you doing?" "I'm good. I got a play, and I think it's going to get a production on Broadway." "Really?" I said, "Yeah, it's called A Few Good Men." I want you to direct it. Can I send it to you? Sure.
Wow.
See the play, and I'm like riveted. It's like 320 pages long. It's huge, But I said, "You've got a great, cracking play in here, man." And he was bartending at I think Biloxi Blues on Broadway, and he saw Helen Gurley Brown go by, and her husband was David Brown, the film producer. And he would always bring a couple of scripts with him in case he saw anybody famous or anybody in the business that might help. So he gives her the play, says, "Would you ask your husband to read the play?" David Brown reads it, says to him, "I want to do it as a movie." And he has the stones to say, he's 22 now. He has the stones to say, "I wrote it as a play. I really want to see it as a play." And David Brown said,
Wow.
"Well, I don't produce plays." He said, "I would like to get it as a movie." He said, "Well, if you could produce the play, I'd be happy to make a deal for the movie." So he partnered with a very famous and expert producer named Robert Whitehead, who produced everything from early Arthur Miller, Clifford Odets, you name it. It started what became Lincoln Center. Brilliant guy, and they produced the play, and Brown got the movie rights, and off we went.
Wow.
That's phenomenal stuff.
Right place, right time. My
Yes.
buddy David Lansky, no problem.
So you took a mercy meeting with Aaron Sorkin,
Right.
and your mercy became Aaron Sorkin, and my mercy meeting became this podcast because that's how I met Billy.
Well,
Look at what the
I'm
future
sorry to
holds, Frank.
disappoint you, Frank, but
There
I'm
you
not
go.
going to do West Wing, and I'm probably not going to be able to do Chicago 7. I won't be writing too much like Sorkin, I'm afraid.
So Don, you also worked at the Playwrights Horizon. Is that correct?
I did. Yep, I did. I directed there a couple of plays, and then um, when Andre Bishop, who was the artistic director there for many, many years, basically the guy who built it, um, got offered the job of running Lincoln Center, being the artistic director of Lincoln Center Theater. And they asked me to come and meet with him and talk about possibly running the theater. And I said, I would love to, but I'm having a pretty active career in television, and I was doing law. I was in the first director rotation of Law and Order, so I was doing 3 or 4 Law and Orders a season. A Few Good Men was running on Broadway, and I said, so I need to be free to. Can I do it and also like go and do a play now and again, or can I go and do a TV show now and again, or a pilot or something? So they basically gave me a very nice kind of deal that gave me some windows to work out of. And so then I came in.
Yeah. So I only ask about Playwrights Horizon because in the late '70s, I believe, my friend Jay Thomas and I, he was a radio actor, and
I knew Jay, sure. Yeah.
Jay was a good friend of mine.
Yes.
He was my best friend. We went to see a play at Playwright Horizons called Coming Attractions, and it was written by Ted
Ted
Talley,
Talley. Yeah.
who later wrote Silence of the Lambs, the movie.
Right.
You weren't involved in it. You weren't involved in Playwright Horizon at that time, were you?
No, I wasn't there yet. That was Andre. Yeah. Yeah.
But you,
Ted Talley, but that was the perfect example of the goodness of these institutional theaters that need to be supported, particularly now during this pandemic when they haven't been able to produce anything for a year and a half. They take a playwright like Ted Talley and they produce a little slumpy play like Coming Attractions, which is intermittently successful. It did well for them, but it's not a commercial type play. And the place was not a commercial type place. It was a place for playwrights to stretch and to try things because they don't have to sell tickets. They're supported by the NEA and they're supported by donations and by their subscribers. And they only run for 6 weeks. So it's not like you have to have a best review in the Times. So the idea is you produce a young playwright's play and that helps them develop. It's that simple. And at Playwrights Horizons, we had everything from just a straight reading of a play to a workshop, which is a short little stage reading, to a new which was a 3-week run, very minimally designed, to a main stage run. And then if you were lucky, it would move to an off-Broadway or a Broadway production, and several of our productions did that. But it was about the development of the playwright, and Ted Talley's the perfect example because he grew as a writer like that. Um,
Yeah, Coming Attractions was a musical about a mass killer who got an agent. It became a superstar.
Springtime for Hitler all over again.
Yeah, about that time, Jay and I had the rights to the Hillside Strangler story. So I was trying to pitch the Hillside Strangler story, and a guy told me, he sort of made an asshole remark. He said, "Come back when it's a musical." Well, I had gotten the rights to Coming Attractions at the same time. So through a guy by the name of Michael Frazier, who was a very successful Broadway producer, I got to. He said, "Well," I said, he said, "Come back when it's a musical." I said, "Funny you should say that. I got that too." Pretty funny. You said you worked with Max Bickford. Is that where you met Jay?
yeah, I mean, I actually knew Jay before that because I used to, when I was an actor growing up, I had a decent voice. I did a lot of voiceovers, and so that'd be the other way I subsidized my life. And Jay, we used to do a lot of voiceovers, um, more like announcer type voiceovers. But I would meet him or see him on these things. So, and he was kind of legendary anyway because at one point he had a popular radio show. I think, is that right?
He had a popular radio show from 1970 to the time he passed away.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so he was a New York guy. We all knew him, and he was a big celebrity here. And that's how I had met him. And then when I did Max Bickford, yeah, he came on there.
Yeah, because he was good friends with Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah, yeah.
Going back to the days, the Mr. Holland's Opus days.
Oh, sure. Yeah. He's a loss. Yeah, I miss him.
Really, what else do you want to ask Don?
Oh, I'm curious that bring up Dreyfuss. I love that movie, by the way, Mr. Holland's Opus. And it's funny, when I came back from Nam, I really never let anything affect me about Nam too much until I saw that movie. And for some reason, when the drummer, the kid who was the black drummer who died in Nam, I cried openly. And my kids even looked at me and said, "What's the matter with you, Dad?" All right, but that's another story.
No,
I'd like
sure.
to know about Friedkin. When you worked with a heavyweight like Friedkin, you worked with quite a few heavyweights. Working with Jim Carrey, what's he like? Does he cut up on set? Is he
Oh my God.
straight by the book?
Oh my God, does he cut up? I mean, he does the great thing. There are many great things about working with Jim. One of them is that he has his own good time. You know, um, he he's fond of his own work. I'll say that. But it's but but there's a reason for that, and that's because he's Jim Carrey. He's hilarious, and at first, somebody said, "Well, you really want to go down that road, Jim, and hire Jim because he likes to do like 26 takes, and then so when I met with Jim, he to because he had said he wanted to do it, so I went to meet him, and I said, "I told you I could do 26 takes," and he said, he said, I never know when it's going to really hit, like when it's going to boom take off. And sometimes he said, and I know my own body and my own instrument, and sometimes it just it'll take a number of takes until finally you go, that's the one. And the truth of the matter is, we saw that happen. We saw him working it and working it. He I think he does a lot of prep in his own mind. He does a lot of prep at home. Sometimes rewrite stuff and come in with new stuff. But then his process on set is sort of like the theatrical rehearsal, where unfortunately it's easier because you have 4 weeks and there's nobody watching. But he wants to do it again and again and again. He keeps refining, keeps refining. He has to play back most every take and look at it and go, okay, I can do that better. I can do this better. And then, but sure enough, I'll say to him, Jim, I had it at take 8. I'll show you take 8. It's genius. It's brilliant. We all laughed. Everybody cracked up around the monitor. Show him take 8. He goes, yeah, no, I can do better, Donnie. I can do better. And he goes back and he tries again and again and again. And, sure enough, most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, boom, he hit one, And so I became aware, and as a director, I just began to plan my day accordingly, so that I knew that if I had Jim on set, I need to make some more time for that process. But if you had, I don't know, if you had Chaplin or you had Buster Keaton, and he says, I need to try that house falling on me 20 times before I'm happy, you wouldn't say no because He's the king of comedy. You know.
That's juxtaposed to Sinatra when if he got the words in the right order and you wanted to do a second take, he said, "How many are you going to use?"
That's right. Well, I'm always saying, I get a good one, and the actor say, "Can I do another one?" I say, "I'm going to print it twice. Don't worry."
So he was spontaneous, but he wasn't ad lib. He was more like an improv guy. Like he got it until he got it, but he was meticulous and he just wanted to get it right.
Actually, he was both in a way. In other words, he was meticulous and he was kept chasing the gold. You know, he kept going after it. And he'd do it again and again and again and again. But then when he was starting to really get in the groove, then things would happen that were spontaneous in the take. You know what I mean? So,
You know,
but
it's funny the way you say that because it makes me go back to the days of head of the class with Billy Connolly.
I love Billy Connolly.
And Billy, you know, in television, you have to do it the writer's way first. So Billy, when we rehearsed 4 days a week, he would do it the writer's way, but he would take mental notes in the script as to how he would like to do it. And once we got it right, whether writers were happy or the executive producers, which would be Rich and Michael, we said, "Go ahead, Billy." And then we would do 2 or 3 takes Billy's way, and we would invariably go with Billy's way.
Yeah. Well, because that's why he's Billy Connolly. The guy's a genius. I was lucky enough to work with him on a show called Pearl. Rhea Perlman, Malcolm McDowell, Lucy Liu, Billy. It was just a great company of actors, and Don Rio was the head writer, but they couldn't make it work. It was basically educating Rita on a TV series, but they couldn't quite get it to work.
Was that shot in a classroom?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because it had that raked set.
Yeah, beautiful set.
But I'd never seen a set like that before. I was wondering how the hell are they going to shoot that?
Multicam. Was it pre-tape? That's why the word pre-tape were invented.
Yep.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it was tough to. In fact, 4 or 5 episodes. I did a bunch. 4 or 5 episodes in, maybe even less. They decided not to have an audience. We shot without an audience. Yeah.
Because you're not making a show for 300 people. You're making a show for, hopefully, 23 million people.
Right.
People, and that's the constant debate we had all the time was we're not making an audience for 300. We're not making a show for 300 people. We're making a show for 30 million people.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Let me ask both of you guys: does the live audience add to it? Does it make it feel more, electric?
Well, it does. I mean, there's people. They're live. They're reacting. Actors love it because actors feel like I'm going over big. But it's a double-edged sword. As Frank knows, it's like writers are going to say a joke just tanked, and they'll spend 10 minutes while the energy goes out of the room trying to come up with a better joke, and you go, it's not. Doesn't matter that this crowd will laugh at a piece of pizza and a bad joke from the warm-up guy.
That's why Billy Van Zandt was talking about Lucy, because Lucy said the last 10 years of his life she didn't know whether she was funny or not, because whatever she did, people would laugh.
Yeah.
So
right. No matter what.
I always used to say a studio audience runs out of gas after about 2 hours. So when you keep a studio audience left there for 3 or 4 hours, it's a law of diminishing return.
That's right, and it gets deadly.
Yep.
And then they think they're not funny. You want to go? It doesn't matter. I used to tell people they're a prop. That's a prop for us.
Right.
It's all. It's just a prop. So you can say it's filmed in front of a live audience. But the truth of the matter is, more and more, and particularly with the pandemic, of course, they're going away.
Yeah.
Well, Frank saying that 2 hours after 2 hours is diminishing returns makes sense. Matter of fact, every stand-up show I've ever seen, it's an hour and a half, and that's it. An hour and a half, they cut it. And every comic I've ever seen gets off stage and says, "I should have did this. I didn't do this. I missed that line," and nobody knows but him.
Except Billy Connolly, because Billy Connolly could go sometimes up to 3 hours, and you would never get tired.
Oh, I would go with that. Connolly was another genius. I love Connolly.
Yeah.
So what was the difference when you talk about was Steve Carell more online on script?
Yes.
Spontaneous.
Steve is a very works very hard, is very diligent, very serious fellow. I mean, obviously he's a funny fellow because he's hilarious, but as an actor, he takes his work very seriously and he's meticulous. Um, um, whereas, it's funny. Gandolfini who was also in the picture, a fabulous guy, a wonderful guy, a very serious actor, takes the work very seriously, but he prefers to kind of know what he's going to do and play around. There's a little bit more of the sort of actor studio kind of, let me see what I got going, see what the other guy was giving me, and, let me try this, let me try that. And so you get a very spontaneous performance from him that's fresh. And like sometimes he'll do a great take and I'll say, "Oh, we're going to do it." He says, "I can't do that again. Don't ask me to do that again." It happened. It happened. I caught the wave, and away I went. But it was interesting. Buscemi also was in that movie.
Ah.
Another genius, brilliant.
Well, I don't know if you know it or not, Don, but I was a fireman in New York for 20 years in the
I
Bronx.
did so. Wow.
And Buscemi, there's no fireman I know that doesn't love Steve Buscemi.
Oh, no.
After 9/11, he had actually come back and worked on the dig with no notoriety whatsoever, and an old turnout coat,
Yeah.
and actually threw a big party in a loft. Had all the Hollywood friends he could had, all the booze, the food, everything was on the arm for all first responders.
Yeah.
Every fireman I know loves and respects Steve Buscemi.
Oh yeah, yeah. He
never forgot where he came from. He always went back to the old firehouse.
Yeah.
I think you worked with another fireman I know. Did you have something to do with Rescue Me?
I did a bunch. Yeah, I did a bunch of Rescue Me. Yeah,
you directed a bunch of
Rescue Me?
directed a bunch. Well, Jack McGee, the guy who played the chief,
Sure.
Jack's a friend of mine from the firehouse from the old fireman days.
I love Jack. Yeah, love Jack. The whole gang was great. And Dennis, Dennis really wanted to do something for the firemen. It was after 9/11 that they cooked that show up.
Yeah.
He wanted to do something that, let people know what it's really like.
Problematic actor, wasn't he? Or isn't he?
Can be. I guess it depends on where you're coming from. The very first day, of my first day on that show, the location was very tight, and the video village was about, around the corner, down the hall, down the stairs, and in a room.
Billy, Don, why don't you tell Billy what Video Village is?
So Billy, Video Village is shooting TV, single camera film television, as opposed to multicam comedy. You have a setup where you have monitors, and the director, the script supervisor, the writers, and the producer usually all gather around that monitor in chairs, and you have headphones and you watch the scene. It's particularly important if you're on location where the crew is in the room and the actors in the room, and there's really no room for anybody else to sit and watch. So you go to what they call Video Village, which they place somewhere where, and for the director, it's most important because you're watching the shot, and then you can go and talk to the actors about it when you cut, etc. Nowadays, which is nice, Video Village has moved much closer to the set, no matter what. But in those days, I was down the hall, down the stairs, around the corner, in a room, watching the monitor. And I said, "This is my very first shot, first day on Rescue Me." Excuse me. And I said, "I'm too far away from the set. I'm a former actor. I have to be close so I can feel what they're doing and I can talk to them." So I go up onto the room where they're shooting, and I just sort of stand discreetly, kind of huddle over next to the camera, like this. The camera's here, and I'm here. The camera goes behind me, and here. And so they slate it, action, and they start to act, and Dennis goes, "Wait a minute, what the fuck are you doing there?" I said, "What? What are you doing there?" Can I say that? I'm sorry, I'm in the podcast. He said, what are you doing there?" I said, "Cut. I'm watching the scene." I can't have you there. Why not?" "Well, I can see you." I said, "Well, can you forget I'm here? You can see the camera too. You don't look at the camera." And he said, "Get out of here. Get out of here." I went, "The direction is the first day. Get out of here." Okay. All right. We'll work it out. I go downstairs and I watch the scene. I come back up. I said, I got a couple of notes. I said, my first note is, you're going to be better if I can see what you're doing. And he said, look. We've been doing this show for 2 years. I don't need you to tell me what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Okay. I'll go along with this. The next scene we set up, I say, we do a rehearsal. I say, I'm going to stay out of his way. I'm going to watch him work. I'm going to get the lay of the land. So I said, okay, let's do some rehearsal for marks. Now that means you rehearse the scene, and now you're going to, wherever the actors stop in a scene, you're going to put a mark on the floor so that the stand-ins will stand there. The actors can go and, go get touched up or smoked up or talk to their agent. And, and, um, and, and the stand-ins will stand there, and the lighting crew can go to work, and the DP can see the actors or the stand-ins under the light and light the shot. So that's why you need the marks. So particularly when the star won't let you in the room to watch the rehearsal, you need the marks on the floor to tell the stand-ins where they're going to be. So I said, let's put down some marks. And I said, Dennis, come back. We're putting down marks. I said, what? I said, we're putting down. What are you talking about? I said, don't you put down marks? No. I said, well, for the actor, he said, I was there. I was over there. Fuck you. And he walked out. I go, okay. So at the end of the day, I walk into his trailer and I go, hey, Dennis, that was a really fun day. First day. I said, you got your own way of working. I want to work with you. This is your show, not my show. But I want to be helpful. That's my job. I'm here to be helpful. I said, and I understand you were a musical theater queen in college. And he goes, what? Because he's got this image. Now they're doing the fire show. He's got this image. I'm a rough and tumble fireman. And I go, yeah, you were a musical theater guy in college, right? He goes, yeah. As a matter of fact, because I had done some homework and I knew he had done Bye Bye Birdie and some other musicals. So I start talking musicals with him. And now we're shooting the shit about musicals, and it's all fun, it's all good. At the end of the talk, I said, hey, I gotta go. I said, okay. He said, by the way, you play street hockey? And I say, no, I don't. But if you want somebody who sucks on your team, I'll come along and try out. No, it's okay, it's okay. Go on. So I go out and I tell the first AD. He said, how'd it go? He said, did you tell him, how you want to work? I said, no, I told him I'll work his way. It's his show. I'll work his way. I said, but we broke the ice over musical theater. I said, and then he asked me if I played street hockey, and he said, you're in. I said, well, if you asked me to play street hockey, you're in. So,
I think Larry's father was a fireman in Boston. I believe, and he was great friends with one of our greatest heroes, Patty Brown, who died at 9/11. And Patty Brown had won our highest award, the Gordon Bennett Award, 2 years in a row, and also was highly decorated in Vietnam. And after 9/11, I remember him on a talk show talking about Patty Brown, and I believe he played hockey with Patty Brown.
I bet he did.
But, so he did have a good link to the fire department.
He does. He's a great guy, really. In truth, he just had a very particular way of working, and he didn't like to waste time. We would run 6 cameras so that we would get everything, because he didn't like to rehearse. But you have to go back to what makes something special, what makes something good. And in this instance, the energy and the passion and the commitment that Dennis brought to telling the story of New York firefighters in the wake of 9/11 and using stories from the real world. Like I did a story about the 6 kids that died in the fire in Harlem that was just right out of this newspaper. That passion, that commitment was what made the show singular, what made it special, and there's a reason why, and it's because Dennis is who Dennis is. I'm not gonna, and one of the things I learned quickly, and maybe it's because I was an actor first, but I'm coming onto a show as a director, and I am both the guest and the boss. For that week, those 2 weeks, that day, whatever it is, I'm the guest and I'm the boss. So it's whose guest am I, and who do I, if you go to a party or if you go to someone's home and you're the guest, you know how to be polite if you've been raised right, And if you are the boss, there's another way you have to work. So you have to kind of walk that line and feel, where am I the guest here and where am I the boss? As far as I'm concerned, I meant it when I said to him, look, it's your show. I'm going to learn your ins and outs. When we were doing the big fire show in Harlem, and we set a city block on fire. It was crazy. We had 3 or 4 big fire engines out there, and we had tons of extras, and we had death and destruction and a lot of fire, real fire, and as well as fake fire. But it was a big night shoot, and by that time, I went running up the ladder, climbed up into the bucket with Dennis, and he says, "What are you doing up here?" And I said, "I know, you hate notes, but we're about to roll, and I just got to tell you something. Be careful, because." And I gave him like a safety note. And he said, "Okay, get out of here." But by then it was all fun. In other words, I knew what his way of working was, and I am proud of those shows. I really
You knew
Well,
when to be the boss and when to be the guest.
yeah, that's exactly right. And that's important. And some people you realize, oh, this guy over here, I got to be his boss. Like whoever it is, he's not paying attention or whatever. I got to go. Hey, smarten up. Let's go.
Well,
I need you here.
you should be proud of those shows because I got to tell you, every fireman that I knew watched Rescue Me, and the thing they loved about it was the authenticity with the ball breaking and the kitchen, and the guys in the kitchen, and especially the early years, the first 4 or 5 years. Later on, it got a little too, swinging into buildings and code open and stuff. But the early years, I thought were just really,
Totally
really
legit.
authentic.
Yeah.
Really legit, really well
Yeah.
done, and
Yeah.
funny and fun.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the black humor is for real.
Yeah, exactly.
Don, do you have any closing thoughts, or Billy or Derek? Do you want to have any questions you want to ask Don as we close?
Don,
Yeah.
I got a question. What's
Derek.
what's the best show on television right
Oh God, that's a hard one.
now? I know.
Because this is a time when there's so much good TV around, and you're seeing stuff on TV you normally don't see on TV, like you might normally go to the theaters and stuff. But in terms of
There's a lot of bad things on TV too.
well, that's have that when you open the floodgates. Um, you know, that's tough. I've been watching a number of strange English procedurals from Broadchurch to this thing called The Unforgotten. Where it's all cold cases, and they're you can tell that they're not affected by the studio system in the same. It just doesn't look like they've had pages and pages of notes to water down these stories that they're telling. They really feel authentic in that sense. In terms of new American TV, it's tough. What do you watch?
Huh. Deflection.
Yeah. Deflection feed.
Let's see. The last movie I watched the other day, and this was a recommendation from Billy O'Connor, was the Chicago 7.
Oh yeah. That's good.
Well, anything Sorkin does.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I thought the beginning was interesting, but the rest of maybe after about 10 minutes, then I thought it was amazing. I tried to watch something the other day that I did not like. I can't remember the name of it.
That's good. We don't want to watch anything you didn't like.
I've also, I've got a 22-year-old son who is nuts about things like The Expanse and Doctor Who from his childhood, and lots of sci-fi. The new Discovery on CBS, Star Trek Discovery. So we've been watching a lot of space opera because he's home. He was supposed to be in Japan doing his first job out of graduation, but the pandemic. So we watch a lot of that. We watch a lot of anime because he speaks Japanese and likes to watch the
Wow.
Yeah. He's a Japan scholar, and I try and keep myself from being so glued to MSNBC that I'm going to throw something at the TV set.
Of course. Well, Don, I got to tell you, Don, you've been a fascinating guest for us. So just interesting as hell. And I got to tell you, some of the things I learned was, one, be nice. It doesn't cost you nothing to be nice if you want to make it in this business. I tell anybody else to be flexible, as Frank will attest to, be flexible. Yep. And maybe have the balls to carry your work with you and hand it to somebody who might do you some good.
Oh, that's true.
A.K.A. Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah. You got your guitar nearby?
Never. Always.
Can you play us off?
Sure. I don't know. What do you want to hear?
We'll leave it to you. Just don't make it a dirge.
Let's see. Will it work if I take this out? Hold on one second. Let me see. Hold on one second.
The speaker.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. Good. Accept and continue. All right, so let's see. Well, give us about a minute of a little ditty that you wrote. Sure. Now, are you getting a level, Derek?
Yeah, it's good.
Well, here's a little tiny thing from Godspell. This is. When will thou save the people? Oh God of
mercy when the people, Lord, not thrones and crowns, but men, flowers of thy heart, oh God, are king. They'll not pass like weeds away. Their heritage, the sunless day. God save people.
Ah,
Great. Thank you so much, Don. You've been
That was great.
terrific.
you've been terrific, Don.
My
Thank you so
pleasure,
much.
guys. My pleasure. Anytime, anytime.
Talk to you soon.
Great. All right,
See
love,
ya.
Greg. Thank you.
Oh, he was great. He
He
was
was
great.
Guys.
He was terrific. So,
He
Derek,
was great.
where do we go now, Derek?
Where do we go now? Where do we go now?
Well, if you can write a musical about a crucifixion, I guess Verdun the musical is next. There's no reason why we can't go there.
Where do we go? Actually, I think that song is a good anthem. That's a nice little anthem.
Oh yeah, that had a great. Day by Day was a big hit.
Speaking of Verdun, I think this podcast is Verdun for the day, or for the
Are we
week.
Verdun for the day?
We're done for the day.
We're done. That's it.
And that's it. We'll be back.
I'm gonna miss you guys.
We're
So
going
sad.
to be back next week with the voice of Porky Pig.
The voice of Porky Pig.
Yep. He'll be our guest.
Don't get Petunia. Don't get no better. Petunia.
Bob Bergen, who is the voice of Porky Pig. He's a fascinating guy with a fascinating story, and we'll look forward to him next week. So remember that These Lips Could Talk, available on Amazon. Hurry up and get yours out. Get your book.
Subscribe to a Make a Mook and a Mike on YouTube or
Make a-
Facebook.
Like, and be well. Till next week. I'm Frank Pace. He's
I'm
Billy.
Billy O'Connor. See
He's
you in
Derek.
church.
See you all.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see you next week.